Now for our Entre Nous segment, and today we're looking at what's been pegged as AmerExit, or Americans that are looking to move abroad in the wake of Donald Trump's election victory. Solange Mougin joins me in the studio for more on this. Solange, so do Americans really who voted for Kamala Harris want to leave?
Well, Google searching how to move abroad and actually doing it and actually being able to do it, they are very different things. But there has been a spike in the number of online searches about this. Google doesn't provide the absolute figures, but their analytics do show that leading up to the election and in the hours and the days following it, well, there were big spikes. To give you some examples, searches like how to move to Europe rose 2,400%. How to move to English-speaking countries was up over 1,300%. Likewise for Canada, New Zealand, Australia searches. Now, the New Zealand immigration website, they also confirmed this sudden interest. They said that 25,000 new users from the United States, they logged onto their site on November 7th. The election again was on the 5th. If you compare those 25,000 to the year before, well, there were just 1,500 Americans who logged on that very same day. And you can see as well how the Trump outcome sort of created such an interest and a spike. Now, where else are Americans looking to move? Well, according to visaguide.world, a site that specializes in visas, they analyze the Google data and they say that the top searches are naturally English-speaking nations like Canada due to its proximity, then New Zealand with its high quality of life, followed by the UK and Australia. Now, when it comes to Europe, Ireland and Switzerland are popular in part because of the language, as are Spain and Portugal, which have special visa schemes. I'll talk about visas in 1 minute. The site says that there's a lot of interest as well in Costa Rica, which has expat-friendly policies and tax schemes. Taxes here are quite important. It's something you have to look into before making the move. There's also, of course, Mexico. It actually holds the #1 spot as the country that has the most American expats, thanks to its proximity, affordability, and of course, for Spanish-speaking Americans, there is no language barrier.
And where does France stand in all of this?
Well, currently, there are thought to be around 100,000 Americans living in France right now. And of course, there is this long love affair, especially in regard to Paris and in regard to Provence, between Americans and France. Just take the craze over Emily in Paris as an example. That is just one of the latest ones. The first wave was actually thought to have occurred after the 1803 Louisiana Purchase. After France sold Louisiana to the U.S., free blacks fled Louisiana, and it's thought that 50,000 people moved to France. Of course, over the decades, people like Josephine Baker, Miles Davis, Ernest Hemingway, James Baldwin, Gertrude Stein, they've all contributed to this often romanticized idea of a freer political and often artistic life in France. Today, Americans live here for a ton of reasons, but some are here because of a rejection of the U.S. Political system. And this is not new, as we see in this scathing view of American life from 2 decades ago, 2003, amidst the anger of the Gulf War.
To express my profound disgust with the Bush government, I am going to burn my American passport. It's their view of the world, the American way of life. It's not who you are that matters to them, it's how much money you earn. That's the American way. It's being suspicious of your neighbors. It's thinking only about yourself and too bad for anyone else.
But Solange, how easy or difficult is it for Americans to move to a foreign country?
Well, like with many things, it often comes down to money. There are things that are called golden visas. These are schemes where a wealthy person can invest in the country, say buy a home or make a donation, and in return they get a visa or a passport. Now, many European nations have actually begun to clamp down or entirely end these schemes, including Portugal, Spain, and the Netherlands. One argument against them is that they can lead to money laundering and corruption. Other nations like Hungary, Malta, Greece, and Italy, they're actually reintroducing or keeping these golden visas. this is to boost investment. Then there are digital nomad visas. They allow people to live in a foreign country for a set period of time if the person has a remote job, say in the United States. There are some 50 countries in the world that have these visas, including Spain, Portugal, the Netherlands, and Norway. Of course, there are all sorts of other schemes, student visas, for example. There are even sites, travel agencies, law firms that have become specialists in these expat moves. There are even sites that tap in, for example, to some women's eat, pray, love dreams and give master classes on how to live abroad. There are others that break down for free what you need to know depending on your own circumstances. One example of this is Reddit's AmerExit forum. It has, for example, 90,000 members. Of course, searching about how to become an expat does not mean that tens of thousands of Americans are suddenly going to pack up and hit the road. The election is not expected to create a mass exodus like we've seen with wars, for example, or other elections potentially that have caused a major upheaval, say the Pieds Noirs in Algeria, the Boat People in Vietnam, the partition of India and Pakistan. But when Donald Trump was elected, thousands of Americans, they did say, where do we go now?
Okay, interesting. Thank you very much for that, Solange. Solange Mougin there with our Entre Nous segment today.